Hello and welcome to AFI Weekly on the Under Centre podcast. I'm your host for today, Fionn, joined this week just by Under Centre podcast Pro Bowler and Harp Bowl finalist Alex Sims of the Louth Mavericks. Alex, pleasure to have you on with us today.
Thanks very much, Fionn.
I mean,
Pleasure
I
to
made
be
it sound
on.
like you're a guest. I'm not great at this, but obviously you're a regular here.
That's
I
all
think,
right.
I don't know, were you on last week? Were you on the show last week?
Yeah, absolutely. It was on the show last week, sort of covering the semi-finals. So looking forward to the big day out now.
Yeah, we've got the final two games of the season ready and scheduled now. Obviously, a triple header, and we will talk about all three phases or aspects of that triple header. But it's starting off on the kidded side of things. Obviously, you've got the Shamrock Bowl and the Harp Bowl. I guess we're probably most convenient to start at the Harp Bowl, one you're involved in. I would like to say probably in as much in such a cruise control season, I think it's fair to say a big step for the Mavericks. Obviously, the playoffs have been difficult in the past. You're now in the ball game. There's plenty of experience in that squad, both at the Harp Bowl level and then also with some of the new names that have joined the squad. A lot of experience. How have preparations been going? Anything different that you've noted this year that the management side of things have done to get everything prepared and ready to go?
Yeah, look, for us, we've just everything's gone up a level. Sort of level of film study, sort of attention to detail in everything, and obviously the playbook sort of been completely overhauled. So yeah, it's been a big change for us. I think like we've always fancied ourselves as quite a good team. Like we have a good collection. Like it's not like the team is sort of now 80% new guys. There's a couple sprinkled in here and there, but the core of the team is still the same as it has been in previous years. And yeah, we've always known we were good football inside, and we've sort of fallen at this final hurdle and the semi-finals before. So yeah, we're just really focused and locked in to make sure we take advantage of the sort of level we're playing at this season, and yeah, we want to go one step further and get back to the SBC for the first time in 7 years for us. So yeah, we've been waiting for this opportunity for a long while, and we've got to put in a serious shift on Saturday to make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's something important to note as well, because obviously with you on the show, there's always going to be a focus or a bit more detail we just have available for the Loud Mavericks and some of the other, obviously Dara with the Rhinos as well. And so I think we can have a focus, but I think what you brought up is a really great point. It's like it's really not fair to say that this is as a result of the recruitment drive that's happened for the Mavericks. You guys have been around the playoffs so frequently over the last couple of years and have really become a Division One powerhouse, probably to your own frustration, but not being able to get that separation or that shot at the Premier Division. So I think it's been really cool. I think those who have been around Division One were probably gritting their teeth a little bit when they saw the riches that have been kind of the rich get richer, as it were, that one of the top teams ended up with a couple of great talents. And look, in as much as it's fair to say that the squad was fantastic before the joining, I think, to be fair, it's also not lathering it on particularly thick to say there's some absolutely fantastic talents that have also joined, obviously being from the Premier Division, Ty Henry being the marquee name, but I believe what's his first name, the running back as well that joined.
Grant Shoot as well, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And for all the talent that was there, it's also good to acknowledge what came after as well, or sorry, what joined as well. So how have you felt? Obviously, I think Ty, just to focus on a little bit, Ty coming in as kind of that coach as well as the quarterback. Was it something that he was able to put his stamp on? How much of kind of the older of the coaching side of things, how much of that was already in motion and was adapted, or did Ty kind of come in, rip up the rule book and start implementing a totally different play set?
There was a pretty strong overhaul of how we worked on the offensive side of things. I'd say it was an entirely new playbook installed. We still have Aaron Finley, still our offensive coordinator, as he has been for the last 2 years. So it hasn't changed much there. He's worked really well with Ty, and the rest of our coaching staff has remained as is as well. Our defensive coordinator, Andy Dunn, is the same. That playbook has changed slightly, not too much, but it's sort of as the season's gone, or as the season's gone on, we've sort of developed it and tweaked it here and there to ways that certainly retired Andy has identified might be a better way to do things. And yeah, it's been a steep learning curve for us, but I think as well just the wealth of experience that Ty's brought in has made us all better players. Just small attention to detail stuff that you kind of don't know, like where your eyes and hips should be. You're kind of just, I don't know, generally playing certainly in Division 1 football on defense, you've got a gap maybe or a man to cover or something. That's your only focus. And now he's kind of sort of made slight adjustments to how everyone on the defense sees the game that's in for the offense that's in front of them. And I think that has been really to our benefit. And I think you'll see as well that we've kind of picked up on it more as it's gone on. I think the first 4 games of the season, we conceded 47 points on defense, and in the last 5, we've conceded 0. So yeah, we're going pretty well there on the defensive side of things. So
yeah, I'm glad you brought that up as well, because as you said, that's quite a strong core as well of players that have been around the last couple of seasons as well, homegrown, if you will. And it's been really impressive to see, and part of maybe gets overlooked because the offense has been putting up so many points on all the opponents this year. It's fair to say as well that the defense has been incredibly stingy, and I think we have a habit in Division 1 of kind of going, yeah, well, the good teams kind of don't concede a lot of points, and it's only the top couple of teams that really put an offensive challenge to defenses. But I think quite often that's not fair, and it's overlooked how difficult it is. I mean, you guys are talking about single-digit touchdowns conceded across 8 games, including against, like, we have the score already. You guys faced the Minotaurs this season 48-7, so only a single score let in on that side, and their former Division 1 or Premier Division team. So I do think it's not fair to kind of skip over the defensive side of the ball, and the Mavericks have really shown what a strong defense they have. Is there anything in particular, any tweaks on the defensive side of the ball that you're going to implement in terms of the ball game without giving too much away, or is it really, let's not mess with something that's worked all season, and let's stick to the fundamentals and just play a nice clean game of football and let the rest take care of itself?
There will be some adjustments because the Minotaurs are more of a passing team than a run team, which is rare in the Division 1. Like it's nearly all strong running games, backed with a little bit of passing, peppered in there here and there. But the Minotaurs do favour the passing. They've got 4 really good receivers that we've seen put up multiple touchdowns across the season. So that is sort of different to what we're used to entirely, but also I suppose it's a side of our defense that we've also been practicing a lot. I mean, we practice against Ty Henry's offense every week in training, so we're not, it's a fairly pass happy offense as well. So we do get good practice against it. So yeah, there'll be a slight tweak, but nothing too crazy. We won't see anything too new being implemented in the ball.
Yeah, and then on the flip side of on the other side of the ball, the Minotaurs, they've had a really good season, I think. And I'll let you kind of dive into it because I'm sure you've kind of been following the tape a little bit closer than I have, and then obviously for prepping for the ball game. But speaking from my own experience last season, I know they'll be bitterly disappointed to even find themselves in this situation. It was a difficult season for them last season. They also lost Joe Kinahan, obviously was their starting quarterback last season. And they've performed really well. I think they've found a lot of talent. One thing that stood out to me in the Minotaurs is they have, as you mentioned, that Premier Division wrinkle in the offense, if that makes sense, that diversity in the offense that maybe hasn't quite trickled down to Division 1 yet. And they always pose a problem. I think it's interesting that you say from your tape that you saw that they're a heavy passing team. That was certainly something when we were playing them last year, they would have been known as a kind of a heavy run team or a strong running team. Obviously, Rafa there at running back extremely strong and well known at the running back position up and down both divisions now at this point. So it'll be interesting to see how they get on. I think they'll be proud of their performance this year. Obviously, they'll have clearly marked to get back to the Premier Division as any relegated team will have. But there's been some ups and downs, particularly on offense, that they've really handled quite well. Obviously, the one big game that stands out for them that they probably won't be too happy with was the Mavericks during the regular season. But other than that, they've been really strong. And I think it poses a nice challenge or an appropriate challenge for the ball game. Two well-matched teams and two experienced teams at this level of football.
Yeah, absolutely. They've got quite a nuanced offense, as I said, for a Division 1 team. Obviously, that's going to be the SBC experience coming down. Joe is injured, which is obviously a shame for the Minotaurs. He has kitted up the last few games and gotten in for a couple of sneak plays, but I don't know if we'll see him under centre. It'll more than likely be Conor Brennan, who is a quarterback who we've not faced this year. We actually faced Sean McCormick, the different QB that started, I think, their first 4 games, and then they made a switch to Conor, who's actually their head coach. So much like ourselves, their head coach is the QB as well. So it will be new for us in that regard. We've watched plenty of tape. Their offense is again, as I said, it's a quality offense with plenty of subtleties to it that you kind of really need to pick up on a defensive side of things. But they've got a good squad, great receivers, a good running back in Rafa as well. I'm not sure though. I think he is suspended for the game because he got ejected against the Rhinos and also got ejected against us earlier in the season. So I believe he's actually suspended for the bowl game, which is unfortunate. Yeah, you always want to go up against the best available, but that's the situation they find themselves in. I think they've had a really good season. 7-1. Can't really sniff at that, and they're in with a massive chance on Saturday. That offense has been humming. The Rhinos did fairly well against them in the semi-final to stand up and sort of slow them down, and it'll be up to us to kind of replicate that on Saturday.
Yeah, and one thing, trying to find talking points for this game and kind of avoid hyperbole, but one thing I think is quite interesting is obviously having faced Ty last season in his previous spot at the Rebels. I think it's going to be interesting in the sense that they won't necessarily be overawed by the occasion, or in the sense of that kind of I think it's fair to say dynamic style. Very obviously, Ty, grown up in the American system, he's a lot of experience in terms of audibles and being quite dynamic. Obviously, as you said, a head coach and a quarterback, to be able to kind of manipulate the play and get to somewhere where he likes to be based on the reading of the defense, which is probably something not a lot of teams of Division 1 will have even coped with, not necessarily even have looked at on tape. Minotaur is one of the few examples in Division 1 at the moment that will have experienced that before, at least to some level. Wouldn't have had a particularly great amount of success, I think it's fair to say, versus the Rebels and Ty, but at least it's something interesting that on the defensive side of the ball, and a small advantage or a mind game advantage that the Mavericks would have had against other teams, maybe taken away. It'll be interesting to see if they can leverage that at all. Obviously, the high-flying Mavericks offense, and in fairness, they were not able to slow it down particularly much in the regular season. But again, I think it's likely that they'll set themselves that bar, right? They've now got a bar to reach. They have a little bit of experience. They have a little bit of tape. And they also, as I mentioned before a couple of times, they'll at least try not to be overawed by the occasion as well. They won't feel it's too big.
Yeah, absolutely. The more you face an opponent in general, the more familiar you get with them. I think it does become an easier task. I mean, you just have to look at their semi-final against the Rhinos. The Rhinos played them twice in the regular season and lost by 30 points, I think, in both occasions. And then when it came to the semi-final, having faced the same opponent twice, an SBC caliber team, played them right down to the wire. So I do think that's a good point you've raised there, and I definitely don't see a 48-7 result coming. I think the Minotaurs probably going to play us a lot tighter on Saturday. So yeah, as you say, familiarity breeds contempt, and maybe an ability to pick holes or pick up on little tendencies, things you see from maybe it could be an offensive lineman on the defensive side. You notice that when X player does this, it's going to be a pass or it's going to be a run right. Little things you pick up on in a game that you think, you store that in the memory bank. I think next time I come up against these lads, I'll remember that.
Yeah, well, I'm sure the Mavericks sideline will be hoping for a 48-7, but I know everyone else at the triple header and all the kind of partisan fans will be hoping for a much closer affair. And I think we've got a genuinely good chance at a very good final with a very high quality of football. Before we move on, and kind of obviously, I don't know if you're going to want to make a prediction or not, but before we move on, one thing I do find fascinating in this game as well is with how strong both teams have been, and obviously the dynamics of the Minotaurs coming down, looking for re-promotion straight away. But then the Mavericks, obviously undefeated season, very low scoring defense, very high scoring offense. It'll be interesting for me, at least, or something I wonder is how the locker room talk is. I think it's hard for the Mavericks to avoid the kind of favorite tag. I don't think there's any issue within the locker room of being able to manage that. But at the end of the day, I think it's going to be hard to get into the mentality of like, we're underdogs, we got to go out and prove something. It's certainly more along the lines of we have to execute today. We know we have the talent in this roster and we have to go out and perform, versus the Minotaurs as well, right? Because they're obviously, based on the regular season game, they can use that kind of underdog mentality. But at the same time, they would have said the goal this season is immediate re-promotion. We're the Premier Division team coming down. We should have the experience and be able to handle the Division 1 team. So I think that's going to be a very interesting dynamic, how the locker rooms are talking to themselves and how they're trying to psych up this game in terms of lining up and playing to their full potentials.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, from our own perspective, which is all I can talk about. We're focused on the task at hand. We don't we are not underestimating the Minotaurs by any stretch. We know that we've been in this position before. Plenty of us. Ty may not have been in this exact position, but a lot of us in that locker room have been. And if there was even a sort of a sense of someone getting ahead of a result, we'd be shutting it. The leaders on the team would be shutting that down straight away, because we know you can get here and you can be favourites and you can still lose the game. So there'll be no qualms about that from our side. That's it.
Right. Well, we'll move on now to the Shamrock Bowl. Before I do, are you going to want to make a prediction or just kind of call a win, or you want to give a score line, or how deep are you going to go here?
I'm just going to go straight Mavericks win. Backed ourselves all season, and I think we'll come home with the goods. Hopefully.
Yeah, I'm going to go with the Mavericks.
Bring the harp back to Dundalk. That's.
I mean, it's very appropriate. I hope the bowl is one of those ones with an empty one, so you can fill it with proper harp lager. But I think I'm gonna go with you. I'm gonna go for a Mavericks win here. I'm genuinely hoping for a great game of football. I think both teams have it in them to put on a showcase of football, not just a defensive battle or an offensive shootout. I think there's going to be really good football played on both sides of the ball. I think, though, based off the regular season, I think the Mavericks have had a fantastic season. I'm going to say in the end, probably 14 points. I'm going to say that's probably that second touchdown, probably right at the end, just to put the game out of reach for the Minotaurs. But I expect it to be reasonably close for the rest of the game, and I'm hoping for a good game on both sides. So I'm going to take the Mavericks as well to win this one. So that moves us on then to, in fairness, probably it's fair to say the marquee of the weekend. We've got UCD reigning champs against the undefeated Belfast Trojans. Fantastic game of football, Alex. Again, it's hard to say. The two teams have been so dominant this season. It's hard to pick, I would argue, some kind of genuine areas of intrigue where it's kind of good. It's kind of good against good on both sides of the ball. It's probably the two best defenses in the league against the two most prolific offenses in the league. What are your insights on this one? Is there anything in particular that's piquing your interest in this matchup?
Look, this is the pinnacle of the sport. This is the marquee game of the season. Everyone in the league is vying to get to one of these, get into an opportunity to play in one of these games, the Shamrock Bowl. I think, I mean, it's strength versus strength all over the field. I mean, you could pick a key area, but both these teams are so strong in every department. And that's probably, I think, the real difference between these two teams and every other team in the division is that depth of talent. both these teams have just an abundance of talent at every position. I mean, I think UCD have 3 quarterbacks who've taken snaps and thrown touchdowns this season. You know, um, they've got a real talent there, and the Trojans as well, massively talented squad, large squad. I think probably the key battles are going to be the usual ones, the cliched ones you're going to hear in any football game. The trenches battle is going to be massively important. That Trojans offensive line is sort of star-studded and has been around a long time. Plenty of Ireland caps between them as well. So it going up against this UCD pass rush is going to be a really key battle. If they can keep Domlin clean, that's going to be a really big win for the Trojans. I think we've seen Dom really develop this season. I think in previous seasons he's relied on his legs more than his arm. And I think this season we've really seen him develop into more of a pocket passer. So if the Trojans can keep him clean, he really has the ability to make UCD pay and sort of get that passing game going. And then obviously they have a dynamic backfield with Rayshawn Boswell, like who sort of lit up the league. It's fair to say, with some highlight reel touchdown runs. So even if the pass rush can get there, if they can do something to run and sort of outside run, they're going to be able to sort of keep the UCD defensive line honest. You know, they can't go all out for the quarterback to get him on his back if they're doing little pitch plays to Rayshawn, who's then got acres of space to run into, because he can certainly make it, make good use of that. So that's going to be key battle number one. And I think number two is going to be this really good Belfast secondary going up against the pass catchers for UCD. Like Tom Donovan in particular is, he's an incredible operator, has been for several years, has been the star of these Shamrock Bowls. I think the last 2 seasons, I think last season he was certainly Shamrock Bowl MVP. So I wouldn't be surprised to see another performance again. And I think he's probably a key man that UCD are going to have to rely on if they want to come out of this one victorious.
Yeah, I gotta say, I'm leaning very close to your analysis there. I think on the UCD side of the ball, I mean, we've got the names we've been paying attention to for the last 3-4 seasons. Aaron Mooney, Tom Donovan. I think even the most casual Premier Division fan will recognize those names. For me, the most interesting thing, or at least, and I might be pulling this out of my arse, and if I am, feel free to call out anyone in the comments as well. But I always find in these big games that the defensive line does tend to have a little bit of an advantage. And so something I'm looking for, and I think it echoes what you said. I also echo what you said. Domlin has performed excellently this season. He has that ability to use his legs. He hasn't had to use it too much this season. He's really developed himself as a passer. But as you said, Rayshawn Boswell has been absolutely fantastic. And for me, I'm going to look for him to create a little bit of magic. One of those times where the defensive line breaks through and he's able to pull, rip a run that goes kind of 10, 15 yards. I think they can be huge momentum builders on the offensive side of things, and pretty demoralizing on a defensive side where you can execute a play perfectly and he can make one tackle miss, and all of a sudden now you're scrambling and you're relying on your back end talent to make a tackle that's difficult enough as it is if he wasn't built like Rayshawn Boswell already. So that's a tough enough tackle in itself. So that's the way I'm going to look at it. I'm going to see which of the two teams. I think Tom Donovan as well. I think you nailed it. He's going to be the key for UCD offensively. They've got amazing talent, I always think, right down the spine of that defense, down the middle, the defensive linemen, the middle linebackers and the safeties, I think have always been a real strong point for UCD. I'll look to them. If Rayshawn starts doing a bit of damage down the middle, I'll look to them to really seal up that. And then it's up to Donlin to see if he can take advantage on the outside and match up those Trojans wide receivers against the UCD defensive backs. I think that's going to be really interesting. On the UCD side of the ball, I think it's about getting in the zone early. I think they're going to want to get in rhythm. Anytime they've been a little bit thrown off, and again, I've checked myself already this season, kind of going too far in one direction. The reality is they've been playing fantastic ball most of the season, but I think anytime they've had a little scare, let's say, it's been maybe on a slow start. So I think they'll want to get in comfortable, huge amount of experience there. The ball game, they'll be able to start a lot of starters with a lot of experience. So I don't doubt that they will be able to get off to a hot start. And if they do, it'll be careful. It'll be a kind of danger zone for the Trojans not to let this game get away from them, because they have the talent to stop it, but also UCD are well able to put the foot on the gas. And sometimes all it takes is a couple of scores and you never quite get the opportunities to reel that back in. These are two very experienced teams. They'll be very good at clock management. If they do get their fingers in the door, they won't be willing to release that. And that's going to be a key chess match. Beyond that, I think that's really where it is. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a special team event that happens somewhere along the way, a block punt or a kickoff return. Those things can be electric stuff that happens a lot in these ball games with a bit of nerves, especially at the start of the game. One of my favorite plays, I always feel, get the crowd really involved. So I'm kind of hoping for a sneaky one of those at some point. And I think there's plenty of potential on both of these squads to rip one at any given point. So that'll be something I'll keep my eye on. Have you got any predictions you want to make before you go in terms of what's going to happen, or will we jump straight into kind of winner and score prediction?
No, I think you hit the nail on the head with the defensive line comment. You know, these are kind of, you give them the slight edge. I mean, I think certainly for us, you know, we've been keeping our defensive linemen in a pen and sort of just throwing them chunks of red meat and having them fight over us. You know, those guys kind of get well riled up by the occasion. The offensive linemen are always the cooler heads trying to just, you know, study the book, know their assignments and everything. That's it. And the defensive linemen are just ready to go in and tear off heads. So I think that's a good shout by you. But yeah, I'm happy to jump into predictions if you are.
Cool. Okay, lead us off.
I'm gonna say that the Trojans pip this one by, you know, like it's going to be a small, so I'm going to say 6 points by the Trojans. I just think they're going to be hungrier for it. The Trojans, it's not the youngest squad. They've got a couple of senior guys, and this could be a sort of last hurrah for some of them. Maybe win the bowl and sign off, you know, for your AFI career. I think that sort of hunger will give them the edge over UCD, who are, you know, back-to-back champions. Certainly they're going to be fighting like hell to make it 3 in a row, but I think that hunger edge has to go to the Trojans, and I see them winning by 6.
Yeah, I'm gonna go same as you. More out of being a contrarian than anything else. I don't like too many dynasties. UCD have had a fantastic few seasons. Trojans have had a really good resurgence in the last, I think it's fair to say, just over the last season. I think that the season before wouldn't have gone the way they wished. So yeah, I'm gonna take the Trojan in this one. I don't think that anyone's gonna run away despite my hopes, because I think that could lead to a really exciting game of football. I think this is going to be maybe more towards the cagey affair. I think it's going to take a little bit of magic on both teams. So I'm gonna say a low scoring game. I'm gonna go for a classic, a kind of a close one, maybe a 3-point win for the Trojans. So yeah, that's it. I don't really have you any witty comment? Oh, actually, we should open it up to Alex's corner. There is, of course, the third part of our triple header, the women's flag football. It's obviously in the typical flag football blitz format for anyone who's not familiar, because we don't cover it too often. So there'll be a few games. I believe it's quarters and semis, is it, that go on the back pitches, and then the final is going to be held in between the two games, or at halftime of one of the games, is it?
I think it's in between the two games. Yeah, we're calling this Kathy's Clada Corner, which is in honor of my lovely wife, who basically bullied Dara into covering these games on Instagram. So shout out to her and the Mavs, of course. So yeah, it is 6 teams qualified. The top 6 teams qualified. So they're doing quarterfinals, which kick off at 12. And that's going to be the 3 seed UCD against the Northwest Vipers, the 6 seed, and the 4 seed Dublin Red Bulls versus the 5th seed Mavericks. So they're 2 quarterfinals. They'll be going, the winners of those will play the Panthers, who are the 1 seed, will play the lower seed winner, and the Trojans, as the 2 seed, will play the higher seeded there. And then in the semis, it'll be losers will play, the 2 losers play in a 3rd place playoff, and the winners will play in the Clada Bowl on the main pitch in between the two other bowl games. But I think probably most people would see this as fairly straightforward. It's going to be the Panthers versus the Trojans in the final. But I think there's certainly potential for an upset in the game, because the Trojans have had a great season. They went 7-1, I think, or maybe it was 6-1. They'd certainly only lost one game, and it was to the Panthers. But they beat the Panthers in the Celtic Bowl final in the women's flag. That was the sort of one-day tournament that happened back in April. And the likes of the Northwest Vipers, even taking them against UCD, they're the 6th seed against the 3 seed, so people might think a foregone conclusion, but they did play just a few weeks ago, and UCD came out just 12-6 winners, just winning by 1 point. The Mavs played the Trojans, who are the 2 seed as well, and only lost by a score there. So the teams are a lot closer in the Claddagh League, given that it's a young enough league. I think this is the first year we've had a full league of it. A couple of teams like the Red Bows and the Panthers and Trojans have played for a bit longer than the rest of them. But I think it's really tight. It'll be really entertaining football. Flag football by design is really entertaining stuff, and the quality that's been on display in the league this year has been exciting. So if that's more your style, sort of seeing fast-paced, quick scoring, those games will be on, I'm not sure which pitch, but they will be on a secondary pitch in the same location. And that's sort of all leading up to the main event for that will be the Claddagh Bowl, which, as I said, will be on the main pitch in front of the big stands, getting its, I think it's deserved place there in the main stand, watching the two hopefuls battle it out. I think ultimately, if I'm going to be picking it, I do see the Panthers taking on the Trojans in the bowl game eventually when it gets there, and I wonder if there might be a sort of added boost for the Trojans, given that Trojans will have plenty of fans down there for the Shamrock Bowl that will come in. There'll be fans there to watch the flag team as well. While I think the Panthers might have a smaller contingent of fans, I wonder if that sort of home atmosphere would give the Trojans a bit of an atmosphere, and we could see an upset in that bowl and see the Trojans take it home, which I think would be really interesting.
Yeah, look, I think it's fair to say I haven't been following it as closely as your household has, obviously, but haven't been part of the Panthers organization last year. I'm aware of their kind of the juggernauts to beat, especially in the all women's league side of things on the flag. So I'm gonna stick with my old teammates. I'm gonna go for the Panthers win in this one, based obviously off no experience, but off previous years' results. I think it's a top-notch team that they have. I know they have a lot of athletes that are dominating the international flag squad as well, which is super cool. And it's something the Panthers club as well hold in very high esteem, and they're very proud as well to fly that flag, if we exclude a pun, as I'm sure they all are. Before we wrap up on that as well, I do just want to mention, obviously, because we're more of an opinions show as well, I think I've heard some stuff around the league about how the Claddagh Bowl is kind of worked in, and I think it's there's probably a bit of nuance that needs to get sorted out in terms of the flag game. I think I appreciate from the league it kind of getting involved in the showcase and putting it up alongside the other finals. I think the final happening in the stadium section while the crowd is there, I think, is a good experience. I think the dynamic of a flag league and having to play the rest of the games off to one side, I think, isn't great. I can see the players not really appreciating that optics, but I think this is something that I think is a fair effort on both sides. I think it's a reasonable complaint to make, but also the AFI are trying to build that in and get that involved and have the crowd there. So I appreciate where they're coming from, but I do think we need to, I think the league and the powers that be need to sit down and maybe refine it a little bit. I think as it gets a bit more momentum, certainly deserving of its own kind of standalone showcase and really have everyone there to support the ladies. I think that's important, but it may be a nice first step. And obviously this is the problem. I don't know if we're calling this the inaugural season, but certainly the first well contested season. And so I hope it goes from strength to strength. We like it, obviously. We're not a flag based show, but when it gets brought up in the triple header, obviously it's great for us to be able to highlight it and spotlight it as well. So I think that's one of the benefits of having it on top of the triple header. But we'll leave it there. Alex, it's been an absolute pleasure to have you on. Good luck and the best of health as well during the games. And I hope you enjoy it no matter which way it goes. Fantastic experience, one you've had before, and I'm sure you'll enjoy this one as well. And we may be talking to a future Premier Division football player. You'll finally make it alongside me on the Under Centre podcast, Premier Division Hall of Fame. I assume your career will last significantly longer than mine at the top level of football, but we wish you the best, and obviously to all the other 3 teams as well contesting the balls. Just to recap, obviously on Saturday in Athlone, we've got the Louth Mavericks against the Westmeath Minotaurs in the Harp Bowl, and then in the Shamrock Bowl we have UCD against the Belfast Trojans. These episodes and all the episodes of AFI Weekly have been brought to you by Rainrocks Web Design. They're the brains behind the UCP.ie. We've been keeping that updated all throughout the season for the kidded football, keeping it dynamic. I think it's a fantastic resource. Hopefully everybody has appreciated it. We thank them for their support over the course of the season. And Alex, thanks a million for joining me today.
Appreciate it, Fionn. Thank you.
And from us, we see you all at the bowl games, the triple header. Good luck.
Peace.